when it comes to one of the ultimate crops to grow on the homestead, when it comes to growing all your own food, for us it has to be raspberries. The raspberries are simple and so prolific.
It's coming into mid-July, and who doesn't love raspberries? This has to be, by far and large, the best starter perennial or permaculture plant, in my opinion, for productivity of a very tasty treat. We just kind of wanted to show this right here, sitting on top of the freezer, is our second big harvest already from our raspberries. That's a lot of berries, and now most of these we're going to get into the freezer. It just gives you an idea of how abundant and how prolific and how much food you can produce from some raspberry plants.
So this is our patch of Killarney raspberries. So we planted these raspberries 2.5 years ago. This is their third season of producing fruit, and what a great investment it was. We have 3 25-foot rows. This crop here was not even supposed to produce the first year we planted them all. It was 150 plants, and we got tons of raspberries first year. Last year we got 17 pounds, and this year I think we're already getting pretty close to 10. But this is a crop that just about anybody can do. Now, I don't just mean domesticated raspberries. We have black raspberries as well as blackberries. Now, they're not ready yet, but the raspberries and the black raspberries are really going for it. So we're going to kind of harvest here, and we're going to show you what we got, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the benefits of raspberries and why you should be growing them.
For me, I have to say, I think raspberries have to be the premier starter perennial crop for homesteading. If you are just starting out and you're planning perennial type fruits, raspberries should be on your top pick of things to plant, because they will produce so much so quickly compared to a lot of the other fruit bearing perennial plants. The one amazing thing about raspberries of any kind, any variety, any species, is they are spreaders. They do it in a few different ways, but basically you can start with a fairly small plant or number of plants, and you can turn it into a pretty large patch pretty quickly. Now, we cheated a little bit with this patch of Killarney raspberries, because if anybody who's been following along with us, we started with a lot of plants. We did a bulk purchase because we wanted a big patch. But I will take you over to another variety of raspberries we have that they're not a wild variety, but we started with a much smaller number of individual plants, and in 3 years it's grown into a bit of a monster. These are all yellow or golden raspberries. There's actually 2 varieties in here, but they're both very, very similar. These are an everbearing variety, so they don't tend to produce the main crop like you saw in the Killarneys all at once. But we constantly have to come back and pick off these. And they've spread from, I think we bought 10 pots worth of plants, and they were small pots of raspberry canes. So you can spread a small amount of plants into a huge patch in a very small time. As I get a little bit closer here, you can see these canes are over my head. These are quite the plants, monsters even. And of course, one of the amazing things about raspberries is propagation is very simple, because this is a suckering plant, and you can see around my feet I have several suckers that have jumped the bed. So one thing we've talked about in a few videos in the past is these wild black raspberries, and this is a really good example of a foraged crop. Now, I will admit these are very close to the house, which is a bonus, but essentially it's a wild species. It's very productive, but these little black raspberries have amazing flavor, and this is a good example where these aren't an improved variety. They're just the normal wild species, but they're still a very valuable addition to our homestead. But the one thing about black raspberries, which is a little different than the red raspberries, wild or domestic, is they're very thorny. So one thing about raspberries is you still are going to have some issues, although I would say the issues are very minor. You're going to lose some berries to birds. The reality of it is, though, raspberries are so prolific, if you have enough of them, it really doesn't matter. And you aren't going to likely have that substantial loss to those kind of garden inhabitants. The fruits are actually susceptible to scalding from the sun, and from the heat and a combination, which can cause the fruit to discolor. And this is the first year that we've actually had that happen. And at first we were a bit alarmed, but we did our research and it was pretty obvious or pretty apparent that it wasn't a major issue and there was nothing wrong with the raspberries. But other than those kind of sort of minor things, there isn't a lot that can go wrong with your raspberry patch as long as you put it somewhere that you can control it a bit, and you do the yearly maintenance of pruning out the old canes and potentially giving them a little bit of compost or whatnot to feed them a little bit. And that's about the extent of the maintenance required. There's tonight's harvest. And to be honest, there was a few more of the reds, but our bucket's pretty full and the other ones are filled, so we're going to come back tomorrow morning. But these raspberries, all said and done, are starting to really accumulate in the freezer.
So we actually did kind of get a rough weight on these, and we're a little bit over 7 pounds, which is a lot. Just to put it in perspective of what you get in the grocery store, those little containers are 155 grams. So in total here we have 20 containers from the grocery store, which actually equals $80 in Canadian right now for what the going rate of raspberries are. So that's not too shabby.
Well, there you have it, folks. Raspberries, pretty amazing plant, pretty tasty too. And if you're not already and you've got a little bit of space, I strongly recommend that after watching this video, you get out there and start growing some raspberries because, well, they're a pretty productive plant. And if you like food and you like to eat, and you like raspberries, it's a win-win situation. And I think these folks grow so many, they won't even notice if I eat a few. But on that note, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe in typical YouTube mumbo-jumbo for more great homesteading content, because there will be more.